And for quite a while now, I've actually been a Sony shooter. I have the complete Canon system, 5D Mark IIs, a bunch of L lenses. I have Nikon cameras, D700s, lots of lenses. And for my own personal use, for many, many reasons, I choose Sony. I'm not paid to be here. I just actually kind of volunteered to be here. If some of you followed me on my Twitter posts or my Facebook, you'll know that I've been just kind of like really, really praising Sony. And the reasons are many, and I'm going to go through them right now as to what made me switch from shooting Canon and Nikon to Sony. So the Sony, the biggest advantage is the electronic viewfinder. Now, that's the thing a lot of people get really weird about, is looking through something that's an electronic screen. They're used to optical. But let me tell you the real benefits of looking through an electronic screen. Number one, you get to change the exposure. It's actually literally like chimping inside before you shoot it. So for example, if I'm at a window light situation and I want to open up the exposure, I literally can do it with my override and watch how much of the rear I want to put in. And it can be done in an instant. I can change the camera to black and white mode, which is one of my favorite modes. Now, the thing about black and white is, and those of you who are seasoned professional photographers do this instinctively, but black and white compositionally is completely different than color. When you look at an image, and I don't know how many of you have done this, but you shoot in monochrome, you look, you go, wow, that looked better than I thought. The reason it looked better than you thought is because the tonal range of your image was nicely balanced. If you have dark red, dark gray, and dark blue all in one area, it's going to be very, very heavy in one area compositionally for the image. So it's really, really super nice to be able to change it to monochrome and look through the eyepiece and shoot through monochrome. It's a super high resolution. It allows pre-chimping. Now, those of us who went from film to digital, we love the digital because we could shoot, look at our screen and go, ooh, I want to change something, and then you would shoot again. What's nice about the LED viewfinder, and it's got a very, very high resolution. I don't know what the count is. I think it's 1024 by something, but it's in your eyepiece. It really looks like optical. The advantage of that is, of course, if you can change it before you actually commit to the photo. And that comes in handy all the time. Like I'm sitting there and I go, oh, let me just play with the exposure and up, down, and then bang, I choose it. So this is really nice. You don't have to do a lot of adjusting later in post. Object tracking. Do you guys ever watch on your iPhone or your mobile phone, when you want to take a picture, a little square goes around the people's faces? Have you ever seen that? Like your iPhone knows how to find the people, and it will track the people, and within that square it knows this is a face, and in that face it'll get the focus and the exposure for that face properly. A regular Nikon or Canon cannot do that because it is an optical view piece. There's no information that's live going to the sensor unless you use live view. And when you use live view, because the cameras aren't really designed to be primarily electronic viewfinders, you're not going to really see the ability to track things. So the Sony actually has some really cool things. Let me tell you the most unbelievable thing it has. There's a thing called Auto Plus on my, I shoot the 77s, okay, and there's a setting called Auto Plus. Auto Plus is turbo dummy. It's like, it's super beginner mode, but it gives you choices that are brilliant. For example, it's a true story. I'm taking a photograph of my wife holding my son, and we're in our swimming pool. And when I put it on Auto Plus, a little square goes around when I'm aimed at my son, and it says on the top left, baby. And then when I move it so that my wife's in, it says portrait. And then when I move it away, it says landscape. It's unbelievable that it knows that, but when it shoots baby, it actually changes the tones of the skin to make it more baby-like, and it's very, very subtle. Another thing that it has is face registration. Now, face registration is really trippy, and it works, because I played with it. Check this out. Beginning of your wedding, you record the face of the bride and groom, maybe the maid of honor, and the best man, whatever, up to 10 faces. You go out into the crowd, you're shooting a 200mm lens with a telephoto, and you leave your finger down with a face recognition on. When it finds the face you've recorded, wham, it hits it. So if there's 4 people in the shot, it'll find that one person that you favored under the registration and hit it. Also with object tracking, this is the part that I like the best. It literally will follow the face around in real time. And this is the thing that really makes the electronic viewfinder fantastic. It has a high-speed drive up to 12 frames per second and 24.3 megapixel resolution. Now that's the 77. 77 is of course not as advanced as the 99. I'm just telling you what I own. And I have a 65. The 77, okay, at 12 frames per second, 24.3 resolution, there's not a Canon or a Nikon that has that combination. It's really a trip to put this thing on high-speed motor. Now, when it's focusing and tracking, it's truthfully not going to do 12 frames per second. That's only on when the focus is locked on manual. But this thing goes wham, and it's like da 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 da. And you know what it's like? Honestly, it's like a movie, and that's what Sony is known for. It's a movie camera. And so when you're shooting your videos, because there's no mirror, there's a shutter, but there's no mirror, you literally look like you're shooting a video. But it's recording 24.3 megapixel images at up to probably, well, it says up to 12 frames per second. Now, it has something that's called phase detection autofocus. Canon and Nikon have something that's called contrast detection. And what contrast detection means is it's going to just move the lens until the difference between 2 neighboring pixels are the greatest. That means it's sharp. But here's the problem with that. What do you want in focus? Do you want the eyeball? Do you want the hand? What do you want in focus? And right here in the center is what happens when you're shooting. Now, this is called focus and recompose. As a Canon shooter, this is what I would have to do. I would have to hit the shutter button, so it would pop into focus like that. Then I would have to hold the button down on focus exposure lock and recrop, then fire. Now, during the moment this is happening, that person cannot move because the lens is locked. So if the person moves a little bit, I've lost the shot. So this is, if you've ever seen a professional photographer shooting with a Canon or Nikon, they do what's called the nod. And the nod is because you're locking it on the eyeball and then you're recomposing it so that the eyeball's not in the center of the shot. That's something that you don't have to do with a Sony, because the Sony will track the face and it will nail the eyeball on the move. And so let me tell you what it's like in real terms. When you're shooting, you basically put it on high-speed motor, aim it at a general direction. If you have a bride or a groom or one of the registered faces, it will find it, lock on it, and shoot it. This sounds corny, but it actually is a very interesting workable tool it has. It's called Smile Shutter. And I know you're just going, oh God, that's all we need. First we had Photoshop actions, now we got Smile Shutter. Well, the way Smile Shutter works is this. It will not lock until you shoot. You can shoot just like regular, but the minute a person smiles, you can choose broad smile or moderate smile. It will fire on that smile. I know it sounds really weird, but if you want to catch the peak of expression, that's something that it'll do. Those are all things that happen because you can see through the eyepiece. So, if you're shooting, for example, I'm just going to have my finger down on the high-speed motor, and I'm just going to watch in my eyepiece as this little square goes around and finds faces. And it's going to lock on that face and it's going to nail it. I don't have to focus and recompose, and I don't have to lock the shutter. In fact, there's settings that I could do that I never would do before. So why the electronic viewfinder? And Canon just came out with an electronic viewfinder. I'm 100% positive that the entire industry is going to change the electronic viewfinder. And it's going to change everything. It's going to change the way you shoot. It's going to change the way you see. It's going to change the way you compose. You can preview your black and white. You can preview your exposure. So you can just set all those up. You can preview your depth of field. With your Canon or Nikon Pentax Olympus, your optical camera, if you want to preview the depth of field, you hit the depth of field preview at f11, guess what happens? The entire thing goes dark because you can't see. So every time you're shooting, you're literally shooting wide open at the biggest aperture that you've got. Object tracking, which is awesome, and then face recognition, which is awesome. So one thing that I do on the Sony that I can't do on the other cameras is shoot with AI Servo And the reason that is because if you shoot with your camera on continuous focus and let it pick the focus spot, what it'll happen typically is it'll choose the thing closest to the lens. This is why when you're shooting a bride and groom coming back from the aisle, you can't turn it on like that. Because what'll happen is the bouquet will be in focus and then their faces will be out. I get so many emails, people saying, Gary, there's something wrong with my camera. Every time I take a shot, the faces are out of focus, but the bouquet's in focus. No, that's because you don't know how to focus and recompose, but that's a valid point. A camera shouldn't be so dumb as to not know that. But the optical cameras are. So what happened in this situation is when I trust the camera to find a spot, it's going to find the spot closest to the lens. I've wasted a shot, which sucks. And then you have to focus and recompose. You wouldn't believe how slow this makes you as a photographer. So these are photos of, this is my wife and my son, and this was all just, for those of you who say, you know, I'm so invested in my Canon and Nikon lenses, I've got a nice solution for you. You know, I only shoot Sigma lenses. Sigma lenses cost a fraction of what the name brand lenses cost, and it's not because I can't afford the other lenses, because I actually have all the other lenses. The reason that I use Sigma is because they test phenomenal. The 51.4 Sigma is an incredible lens, and it's not so expensive. And then when you start to get into the system, you can buy some of the really cool, awesome Zeiss lenses that are only available in the Sony. So these are some photos. Let me explain what's going on here. I'm shooting on manual mode because it makes sense to shoot in manual mode with an electronic viewfinder, because you're not going to look at it and go, oh man, I really blew that shot. You'll know before you hit the button that what the shot's going to look like. I'm on manual mode, f1.4, 50 millimeter lens. This is cheap stuff. You know, this camera's $1,200 and it outperforms, I don't know, pretty much any camera that I can think of. So the eyeball's in focus. And I literally just have my finger on the button and I'm letting it just go. And it's doing the face tracking. There's nothing special going on here. I just have my finger down on the button. I'll show you the settings in just a little bit. This looks like, I don't know, quite a setup, but honestly, we just woke up, we had the kids snuggling with us, and I just put the camera on and let it fire. And I do this every day. These are the most photographed children on the planet. My wife's a professional photographer also, so you can imagine what they go through. And you know, that's the other interesting thing too, is because, I don't know, women to me seem to be more set in their ways than men. Men will go, oh wow, cool technology, I'll change right away. Whereas women will say, no, but I know where the buttons are and everything like that. Very hesitant to switch. When I gave my wife the Sony to shoot, she switched and put the Canons down for good. Well, let me show you the settings. Those of you who own Alpha Series, you probably never even thought to do this because you're so used to shooting with an optical camera that you're just like, I'm not going to even go to continuous focusing. So, but with the Sony you can. Now, on my Canon or my Nikons, I would put the focusing switch to S, single shot still, which means that I would lock, as long as my finger's on the button, it will keep it there where the eyeball was when I locked it. Now, if they move like that, the shot's out of focus, okay? On the Sony, I dare put it on C. C means that when the person's moving, your lens is focusing. That's weird, because you can't really do that with other cameras. First of all, the other cameras have contrast detection. Sony has what's called phase detection autofocus. Now, phase detection autofocus is superior because it's like a, what are those called? Rangefinder cameras? You know how you'd have two images and then you'd put them together? The way that phase detection works is it actually takes two images from the top and the bottom of the lenses, and then they move them until they're together. It's lightning fast, and it's also guess proof, and then when you combine that with object tracking, holy smokes, you've got the fastest autofocusing I've ever seen. So I put it on continuous. I put it on high-speed motor. And then the autofocus area, I put it on wide. Now, this is something that on your Canon, Nikon, it's the same thing. They call it multi-zone. I forgot what they call it. But anyway, this is not metering, this is autofocus area. I'm going to choose the big one, which is going to activate all the dots. Now, when the subject is moving from right to left, wide open at f1.4, that little square is going to follow their face around, and it's going to nail it. It's even going to nail the eyeballs. Not spot. If I were shooting my Nikon or Canon, I would shoot that one, which means that it would either be locked on the center, or some people get really good with a joystick. Okay, so if you're a 5D user, you got 45 autofocus points, you know, and you're just like, even when you're looking at people, you see a red dot kind of going around because you're so used to that. With the Sony, you don't have to do it. Aim it in a general direction and shoot. And then if you need to go at a different angle, I love using this. You know, I can go like that, move the lever around, shoot over a crowd. This is really nice. I like to shoot with my eyepiece. And then here, object tracking or face detection or smile shutter. Those are really cool features. So, on my website, and this is, I've got up here a bunch of postcards. I've got something like, I don't know, 275 videos, all completely broken down. Custom white balance for beginners, Sony shooters, Canon shooters, Nikon shooters, Photoshop techniques, file management. I give you button by button what to do on everything for your camera, and it's all on there. So, but just go to garyfong.com and then click on the YouTube links. You'll be stuck in there for hours because I have so many videos. Now, if we can just let the center screen go and hit play on that, I'll show you what this is. This is a regular shoot, just nothing special. The kids are being fed. I have my camera on, and I just lay my finger down, and you'll notice that it stays on his face, and I've got that beautiful telephoto compression, and that's basically how that goes. Super fun. Now, I've actually made a diffuser specifically for the Sonys, and this one's called the Gamma diffuser. The Sony flash is what really made me think their engineering was brilliant. Check this out. Shoot vertical or horizontal, you don't need to twist and turn. In fact, when you're shooting like this, you know, all the other cameras, when you shoot vertical, what do? You have to point it up, and it's weird. Check this out, it's got a windshield wiper. Okay, so you can shoot vertical, horizontal very quickly. But when I put this thing on, hey Lauren, can you jump up here real quick? Lauren? I'm just gonna do one real quick before and after, and I'll just show you what this does. So this is, I'm also the guy who makes the light sphere, but I'll show you. Let's go against the wall so we throw a real harsh shadow. Flash is really nasty, and I've gone on right now an 85mm f1.8, and so what I have here, I'll put this on my YouTube video because this is going on video, and let me show you this one. So the idea behind this one here, and I'll just show you, the way that it shoots is it lights up this entire thing, and I've got these little, I'll do my after picture here. Good. Okay, thanks. We'll put this up later. The way that I shape this is the same as the beam coming out of the head. So it will exactly fill this with all the light that it's coming out of the head, nothing more, nothing less. These dots here basically pick up the light and transmit them to the front, and you see that it goes right into the beam. This thing's only 29 bucks, and it's an awesome diffuser. You just have to try it. Again, this is another thing that's unique with all of my flashes. It's not gonna fall off. And this is Sony's camera, so I really mean what I'm doing. No, this is my camera. But I don't want anything to fall off. And it's flat, it just goes right into your thing, and rather than have your direct harsh flash, I've got this beautiful thing. And the reason why it's for Sony only is because the HV FL flashes do that windshield wiper thing, which I think is a huge advantage. Okay, I've got 5 minutes left, so does anybody have any questions? So I'm kind of an expert on these. Any questions about, yes? At a beach wedding? Okay, so that's a very good question. Let me just give you another thing for the beach wedding. That's this guy right here. If you're shooting a beach wedding, it really is a good idea to take that camera off the flash. Because what happens is you got that beautiful, spectacular blue or sunset. Wouldn't it be neat to have a stage light on them? Now the thing about that though, is that you have so much ambient light that it's very hard to make it dark. The Sony has high-speed sync. High-speed sync either through its infrared or through what I use is a photix transmitter. I can shoot 1/8,000th of a second at ISO 100 at f11, and I could be on the sun and it would still be pretty dark. With that kind of range, I can then take it and change the color of the world to whatever I want it to be. Now this one here is beautiful as a fill. When you're shooting outdoors, all you want the flash for is a fill. And I really don't think it's a good idea to shoot outdoors without fill because you don't get the catch lights, you get whatever spotty lighting. This is the thing about flash. Wherever I stand, it's either going to be good light hitting me, but it could be an ugly background. Or I've got a beautiful background and bad light hitting me. These are all things that happen on the fly, and that's why I use flash to even everything out.